What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 48 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we got about a 27-minute video, so we're just going to be jumping right into this. Really going to be trying to pick up the pace here and get as much done as we possibly can on our primary outer corridor level 1. You can see that I got rid of, we're on the back end of our corridor, and I deleted our blue marker, and we're starting an outline down the center, which will become one of our main hallways. Now, you can see I'm doing a pillar on each side that's 3 wide. I'm going 3 high. That's going to be an entryway point. Now, I was going to do 3 by 3 here, but we're actually going to double up this side. And this will make more sense as we fill in the walls and whatnot. But the doorway will kind of be arching out just a little bit. So anyway, what we're going to do right now is we're actually going to go along the outer outline where there's the dark gray concrete on the outside only, and we're going to fill that in with half slabs. And we're going to do this going all the way around the circular corridor. Now, if you want to get ahead of the game, I'm going to pause this for a second. In between, on this first row of white concrete, we're going to use the white terracotta, which is what we just used to fill in the doorway. We'll replace this row of white and then this row of white with the terracotta. And then these 2 gray rows, that's going to be blue. And then the very center, that's going to be cyan. We're going to do that going all the way around. Now, there are going to be a couple of steps to this, in that I am actually going to be making a few changes, well, minor changes, not necessarily in the design, but the color. Because as you can tell, when we started this, I wasn't necessarily 100% certain on the color, and when we start putting the walls up, you're going to notice that the walls are going to be terracotta, but I'm actually going to tell you to use a different color. And my main reason for doing that is because when I started this, I really thought that the terracotta was going to work out great for doing the interior, because that was the color that, from what I looked at with the blocks available, most closely resembled the cream color that you'd find on the interior of the Enterprise D. Now, the problem that I had is that once I filled all of this in, and I actually had a completed corridor and I started walking down my hallways, the terracotta ended up looking just way too dark. And there isn't really the next lightest color is one of the sandstones. Now, believe it or not, because I'm sure somebody will ask, well, hey, why didn't you just use one of the sandstones? And even that, the color is probably as close as you're going to get, but the texturing of those blocks, I didn't like how they looked. So for that reason, we're going to be opting out for the most part of the terracotta and using white concrete in its place. Now, that is going to be a slight variation, but with that being said, we will use the white terracotta here and there to at least keep those hints of that cream look intact as much as we can. But for the majority of this build, for the interior, we're going to be using the white concrete just to get the cleanest look possible, because I don't know what it was. Well, I know exactly what it was. When I used any of the stone blocks, it just had a very earthy look to it, and I wasn't feeling that for a spaceship build. That, this should have a nice clean look to it, which is one of my main reasons why I use the concrete blocks, and why almost you never see me vary away from that unless I absolutely have to. But I still tried it out with the sandstones. I didn't like how it looked. So we're really rocking here. We're just going along our outline, and we're trying to get this done, and trying to think of some stuff we could talk about here. Actually, which is kind of cool, they released some more screenshots from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and they finally released another picture of the updated bridge of what the Enterprise bridge will look like on that show, and it almost looks exactly identical to how it looked on Discovery. The biggest changes that they made to it is that they actually got rid of the circular corridor going around the bridge, which was completely unnecessary, and they slightly changed the color palette to match the TOS Enterprise a little bit more. But outside of that, they actually did not change the design of the ship whatsoever. And I was a little bit disappointed with that because that was one of the things that they said that they were really going to try to make the ship feel more like the TOS Enterprise. But with that being said, I mean they do kind of have 7 years before they have to get there, but we'll kind of see what happens. But I do want to get back in a little bit what we got going on here. So you said we did the whole outside ring on the top of the dark gray with the half slabs, and now this side over the top gray we're using the white terracotta. Now, instead of doing the white terracotta, we're going to be using the white concrete in its place. The white concrete will look a lot better, and I'm just saving you time, basically, at this point from having to retread like I did. Because pretty much what I ended up having to do was that not only did I build this main level circular corridor, I actually did the one directly, I think, can't remember if I built below or above, but the next level that I did it in the terracotta too, and then I actually had to go back and change the color and swap out each one of those blocks. So trying to save you a little bit of time here by pointing out some of these changes, and there's going to be a couple more while we're going today. But don't worry, I got you guys. And those of you that watched the episode that came out last Wednesday, which should have been 46, I think it was. In the beginning of that episode, I showed a teaser for the Enterprise D on the interior, and I showed off a little bit of the corridor so you get an idea of what they're going to look like. And I'm not going to lie, I think that the white actually looks a lot better than with the terracotta. But we still have a little bit of that in there because, like I said, on the each of these first rows of the white on each side, you're going to be swapping those out. So the white will be having the terracotta on the floors. That is something that I did leave, and it just I actually just kind of liked how it looked and decided just to go with it. Oddly enough, which was kind of crazy today, I actually didn't have to clip any videos together because this was just a long recording session today. I think this went out to 27 minutes or so. Yeah, because we're at 20 now. We already went through 7. So we still have about 20 minutes left in today's build, but I didn't have to clip anything together. But we're slowly picking up steam. Actually, you know where I'm at right now in the build. I'm actually working on the inner corridor rings. So this thing, just like the last couple of my ships that I've been building, the Cerritos, the Disco Era Enterprise, we have 2 layers of rings of our corridors, both the outer and inner. But the cool thing with the Enterprise D is that there's going to be multiple levels for both the inner and outer ring, which is something that I've never done before. And I'm really looking forward to showing this stuff off because when this thing is done and we go through it, it's going to feel massive, which is kind of crazy because I built this a little bit smaller than what full scale would have been. So you can only imagine how big this thing would have actually been if I went full scale. But I really didn't want to go there, and I talked a little bit about this in episode 1 because if I went full scale, then we would have been building out a render distance. And I don't care who you are, when you're building outside a render distance, it becomes almost practically impossible to proportion your ship because you can't see every single angle. Now, you can see that we're moving on. We've completed our bottom row. We're adding another row on the inner ring on top of the gray. Now, instead of doing this white concrete 2 rows high, you're going to switch it up to the gray concrete for this middle block right here. And then we're going to come back and do that going all the way around the saucer. Yeah, no, again, back in a little bit, some of the stuff I was talking about with Strange New Worlds, they're slowly but surely releasing new information, and I'm waiting for them to finally release a screenshot of the U.S.S. Enterprise that's going to be on Strange New Worlds because I started a tutorial for season 2 of that based off of the one screenshot that I could find of the ship where they looked like, from what I can see, that they changed the pylons and then the lower end of the back lower hull. But I've been holding it because I want to wait until at least we get some decent screenshots out, and then maybe also until maybe season 1 is out, so I can actually see what other changes that they've made to it, so that I can incorporate this into the build for season 2. But that is going to be something that's going to be coming. Um, yeah, we're definitely got a lot of cool stuff to look forward to as far as Star Trek goes. Trying to think what else. Oh yeah, on Star Trek Online, they had a new season of content that came out. I think they did another season on the Terran Empire, which should be hopefully interesting. I was a little bit disappointed when I hopped on there today because they've been advertising that they were adding some content from Star Trek Lower Decks, and I was hoping to get my hands on the uniforms from Star Trek Lower Decks. When I got on there, they had the uniforms from the Terran Empire, which I thought was kind of a little bit of a cop out because they've been advertising the Lower Decks uniforms. You can't even buy them, which leads me to believe that they're probably going to be lockbox items, which is frustrating to no end. I mean, I love Star Trek Online, but I mean they're greedy sons of guns. I got to be honest. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind paying for stuff, but to have it in the casino lock boxes, the way that they have that set up, is absolutely ridiculous. It's funny. I was talking to my girlfriend about it like 6 or 7 years ago when I was up in New York for a bit. I ended up this was right when they released the Kelvin era Enterprise, and it was in a lockbox. I dropped $60 in keys to get that ship. And long story short, I dropped $60 and I walked away without the ship. And at that point, I'm like, I'll never spend this amount of money in Star Trek Online again, let alone on a lockbox. But I really wanted that ship, so you could see, obviously I spent the money to try to get it. Now I have bought ships on there, but I will never, ever, ever do the lock boxes because it's just a complete ripoff, and in my opinion, just complete predatory gaming practices. And if you're not sure what that means, it basically means where they're trying to take advantage of the gaming community by adding uh, shifty casino mechanics into the game, which is a total sham, and honestly completely goes against Gene Roddenberry's vision, where in the future money doesn't even exist. So yeah, that's my rant as far as Star Trek Online goes today. But yeah, I really hope at some point maybe they do add those uniforms, and even the uniforms from Card Season 2, the Starfleet uniforms. Those look pretty cool. I was really hoping to get my hands on those, but we'll kind of wait to see what happens. So as you can see, we are still rocking and rolling here, working on this inner ring. This is just a big ship to render in. So we finally got that row completed, going all the way around. We're looking pretty good. Now we should be going along and adding a row directly behind the half slabs. The one cool thing with this is that this is technically the hardest part of the circular corridors, is working out this pattern. But once we have this established, it's actually going to be pretty easy to build these things because we'll have our blueprint completed at that point. Um, and essentially the blueprint that we're using here is almost identical to the corridors that I used on my 2009 Enterprise, and then also the Disco era Enterprise. I've just found that using the blocks in this combination give you the best look without it looking too boxy. I actually, on the Cerritos, I tried to use a different pattern and it just didn't come out right. And at some point, I'm probably going to come back and redo those corridors the way I have it on here. Um, Now again, on this side, you can see that we're adding blocks directly behind our half slabs. If you're using terracotta, stop it and switch over to the white concrete. And you're going to want to be using the white concrete going all the way around. So on this side, we're using white concrete. On the other side, we're using white concrete. In that top row right there, that should be a row of the gray concrete going all the way around, because it is going to have a stripe, because they do have stripes going down the corridors on the Enterprise D, which a lot of people don't even know this, which is actually the GPS for people that are either are new to the ship or maybe they're VIPs just coming on board. That's what those black strips were. It's a GPS to show you where to go on the ship because it's so massive you could easily get lost on it. Not a lot of people know that, but and I can't remember the episode of the Next Generation that they explained that on, but I know that that was on one of the episodes. I'm pretty sure in season 1. I could be wrong on that. No, this design is actually going to look pretty good. Like I said, exactly the same from what I've used in the past. But it's just kind of one of those things. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what I've been able to do is just change up the color palette between the builds just to give it its own unique identity for that build. But the way that the corridors curve, and you'll see what I mean as we render this up forward or going upwards, that the left side curves into the right side. It gives it that nice dome curved look that we're trying to maintain without the room becoming so pixelated. One of the other things that you're probably going to notice right now is that my floors are 4 wide, even with our walls. And the reason that we're doing that, instead of them just being 3 wide like our straightaway corridors, is that, like right now, when we're hitting the curve, if this were only 3 wide, the the walls would be so close to you, you'd be bumping into the walls walking through. And if you don't know what I mean, try building this out being only 3 wide. You'll see exactly what I mean, and that's why I ultimately decided to make my circular corridors wider than the straightaway corridors. So this way, when we're walking all the way around the circular corridor, we're not bumping into any walls. But it doesn't honestly look bad with it being 4 wide. It's only actually one bigger than the straightaway, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, no, this thing is really taking some time to get it done, and I've been saying it. I'm pretty sure I'm probably not going to do a ship this big again, unless like it absolutely demands it. Like I've had some people ask me for the Enterprise E. Like even if I do the Enterprise E, I'm probably sure I'll more than likely scale it down a little bit, just because of the amount of time that it's taken me to build this. And to give you like a really good idea, like normally when I on the Cerritos tutorial and then also the Disco Era Enterprise, we were already working on the corridors probably within the first 20 episodes, so it's taking over twice as long to do this. Anyway, getting a little bit what we got going on. Now you can see that I'm adding a row of gray concrete directly above the half slab, so this way it's kind of floating above it. And now we're going to do this going all the way around. Now this is on the outer side. You're not going to be doing this on the inner side. Only going to be on the side where we have the half slabs. This is what I mean where this side it's going to start that curve transition. I've had some people ask me in the past, like, how did you come up with this design? What did you do? And to be perfectly honest with you, this was just something that I've developed over a period of time building these ships, trial and error. So you guys are really getting the best of both worlds as far as this tutorial goes because I've had several builds to refine this design down to. Because, I really if anything, I refined it while I was working on the Enterprise A refit because that's where I developed it for. And it was just over a period of a couple of years, just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until I came up with something that I was really happy with. And I'm telling you, you slowly but surely you will develop this skill set where you start to remember your patterns. And that's why I say that I always think about like some of the patterns that I've used on my other ships to help me on my new ones. And it's going to just be one of those things that you're really not going to understand what I'm talking about until you really start getting into building a few of these ships. Because you got to think at this point that not only have I built the Cerritos, the Disco Era Enterprise, the Kelvin, uh, the Vengeance, and then the 2009 Enterprise, and then the Enterprise A refit. But if you actually just look at between the Enterprise A refit and the 2009 Enterprise, I've rebuilt that class of ship 5 times over a period of 7 years or whatever it was, hopping on Minecraft here and there in between. Now, it didn't take me 7 years to build all five of those, but this is, just going back and forth within that time frame of doing it. Sometimes taking off 6 months, maybe even sometimes taking off a year. So just bear that in mind. This over that period of time, you start to develop this skill set. Not even necessarily a skill set, but having a wheelhouse of different patterns that you can use and things to do when you're faced with certain scenarios. That's why I always say, one of my things, when in doubt, go with the cut. That's just because, in my experience, that's the best thing to do. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're sticking with our patterns. And when you start to do that, building on here starts to become a little bit easier. And that's why I've also said that, it looks like I'm going off of a blueprint, but I'm really not. I'm just using my past patterns to service this build, even though we're building something totally different. I'm actually really happy how this is coming out, because up until I did this ship in the Cerritos, I wasn't 100% sure that I was really going to be able to do that, because um, the Vengeance and the Kelvin, they weren't far off enough of the Constitution class to really say, like, okay, I can build a different class ship and not have any problems. I'm not counting the Discovery, because I will admit I made some mistakes when I built the Discovery, even though I've had a lot of people say that build came out awesome. I'm my own worst critic when it comes to that. But like, if you go back and watch the episode where I put that out, the saucer section is not perfectly in proportion like my other ships are, and that's not for lack of effort. Well, actually, it is, and I'll call myself out for it. I rushed the build, and that's why I say to use the pixel circle generator, again, from experience, because I've done it. And that build on the inner rings, I cheated and I tried to wing it, and that's why I say never wing it, because no matter how much you try, no matter how much you try to go back and fix it, the bigger you get, the harder it becomes to try to build that out. All right, so we're looking pretty good. We've got our black or gray row concrete gone all the way around. And we shot through 21 minutes. Doesn't feel like it. Actually feels like maybe we spent 10 minutes on here so far just building away. But we still have about 5 minutes left in today's episode. We're going to try to get as much as we can get done today. But I don't think we're going to end up finishing up our main corridor. I think we're going to get close to it, but we're going to pretty much be just short of doing the roof. So now we're going to add another row on the outer side, going in one with a cut and up from our gray line. And again, we're not using any terracotta for this. We're using white concrete. And again, we're going with the cut line. Now you can see that I am going past one block past the cut line. Then you can see I'm adding that block back. And the reason I'm doing that is just to help me out with placement a little bit. Because no matter which way you go, you either throw a block down, come back and which you could leave, which one I'm adding on the right, I can just leave that block there because it'll be hidden behind the cut line. You'll never see it. Or we could do it on the left and then definitely have to delete a block. So I'm doing that just to try to save myself just a little bit of time from going back and deleting all that. Now there are a couple of rows, and I can see them back there, that I kind of rushed through it a little bit. We're gonna have to go back and check our work and make sure that we're going with the cut line here. Otherwise, there's going to be some mistakes as we go and add our roof in, because we are going to be going with the cut line again. And as we're going down here, if the rows that we're adding aren't matching up, then it's not going to match up with the left side. So it's very important to get that right. So you might see one or two times here that I am kind of making little mistakes here and there, going one past, but that's okay. We're going to come back and fix that. So very important to make sure that you're going your cut lines. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Well, about this specific design that I came up with for the corridors, but it just it screams Star Trek to me. And you know what it actually kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of the circular corridors of the Enterprise A, or the Enterprise Constitution refit, which is what I actually developed them for. And I just kind of decided at that point that this is probably the best design that I'm going to come up with for corridors, because I actually have gone back and I've tried to change this pattern up for different class ships and also within different eras. But that's also why I've just ultimately decided just to change the color palette on it, because it's honestly easier to do that than to try to develop a different method or a different pattern of building another circular corridor that's going to look better than this. Because within the time that I've been building all my ships, I have actually yet to come up with a better design other than what we're doing right now. Yeah, because that curve right there, that looks freaking awesome. Is that something that I see on a lot of people's builds when they're building these corridors out? They just build a square. And for your straightaways, like, I can get that, especially on the Enterprise D, because that's how it pretty much looks. But like, take the time to build this stuff out, because I'm telling you, this attention to detail, this is what's going to make your ship stand out from the other ships, and this is what's going to separate the boys and the girls from the men and the women. When you're showing off your builds to your friends or uploading them online, this attention to detail is what matters. And this is why I get so many people to come and watch my YouTube channel, because I take this extra time to build this stuff out, and I take this extra time to develop these different patterns. But I'm not a greedy person. I have no problem with sharing all this information with people. And again, that's another reason why I started doing these tutorials, because I know how it is. I've been on that side of the fence, not knowing where to go, where to start, and what to do, and nobody wanted to share their information. And the ones that do have tutorials on there, they're just running around talking about some stuff and not showing you how they actually did it. So the way I figure is that if I can show people my steps and my method on what I do every day to build, hopefully um, other people will be able to enjoy the shipbuilding like I've been able to enjoy it. Because this is a lot of fun to do, and especially like a ship like the Enterprise D, this would be something that that most of the time you would get a couple of people that they would come on and do this ship collectively. This is something that I've been working on since February, that I've been doing by myself, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I'm just saying, like, it's taken me from February up until now. And I'm not even done with my ship yet. Granted, I'm a lot further along than we are in this tutorial right now, because I don't even think we started the tutorial until I think it was in May. I'm pretty sure that's when I started, but I actually started recording for it in February, and I'm still working on it even now. And there's a ton of stuff I still have to fill in. I'm really just now getting to a point where I have all of my um, walkways completed, because I actually just recently went in and added that inner ring of circular corridors, which we will eventually get into, but it was something that I added much later on, because I actually originally wasn't planning on having two sets of corridors. And then once I got the top on my ship, I decided, I'm like, well, I can get away with this. Um, but that's going to be something for a future episode, because we have run out of time. Now, obviously, I didn't get a chance to finish this row off. I stopped just short, I believe, of going all the way around. But you want to make sure that you do this row going all the way around, going with a cut line. As long as you do that, you can't make a mistake. When in doubt, go with a cut. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. We've got a decent amount done. We're really going to try to wrap up. We should be able to wrap up these corridors this week. But yeah, I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. The more people I get to like these videos, the more views I get of new people that are coming in. That helps get more uh, exposure to my channel. And I can't thank everybody enough for taking the time to do that. If you have any questions regarding today's build, or are there any ships that you want to see me build, or any builds in general, you're just dropping by to say hi, be sure to drop a comment below. Definitely love to hear from everybody, and I'll help you out if I can. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up today. And don't forget, you can always catch my new Minecraft videos dropping Tuesdays through Thursdays. I hope everybody has a happy and safe day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.